All right, a few stories on Africa today before I wrap up. General stories here. In the Senate NDAA, there is a whole bunch of funding that is targeted at African militaries, and the idea is to establish deeper ties between the U.S. militaries and the African militaries to prevent those militaries from cooperating more with Russia and China. I think that this is a generated threat that, yeah, China and Russia, like most countries, are looking to Africa as developing nations. They have resources, and, there's a lot of people that live there. So they're not only markets for our products, but are, potential places where, we could either get resources, in an ethical way, not in like, the old, we're just going to steal it way, or, like they manufacture things there and people buy them. There's a lot of great things that could happen from Africa developing more economically for everybody on the planet. But what the U.S. is really concerned about is that if, these nations are more allied with China or something like that, or they have really strong economic ties with China, then they're not going to want to buy U.S. military weapons because that could, hurt their economic relationship with China if the U.S. is in a Cold War with China. And so the idea here, I think, is to essentially get in on the ground floor in Africa, make sure that all these countries' militaries are beefed up, right? So that, they're essentially either in control or an immovable force. So even if the country has like a strong civilian government or something like that, it really couldn't do anything against the military, or it couldn't do anything that the military did. It would have to consider the military as its own entity that's, potential to take over the country at any time it wants, and it kind of has to placate the military. And if all the military equipment is American, it's going to cause these countries to continue to buy American made products because the military equipment is really expensive. And so if you're buying new products from Russia, it's going to cost more than just simply buying the new the new missiles or parts you need from the US. And so I think that is a lot of the goal here with this bill. Of course, is coming all at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer dollar. Now, one of the consequences to this, which of course the U.S. government pretends like it isn't, is there's growing militant groups in Africa, and you really have to wonder if the U.S. giving more tanks and military planes to governments, in Nigeria and Ethiopia, if that is in part stoking the increased hostilities and more militant groups in those countries that are carrying out insurgencies and asymmetrical warfare. The main military in these countries is looking to project more power. This is producing more extremism, as Antony Blinken would label it. Although I think in a lot of times, when they say like extremism when it comes to Africa, it's they're really stretching to tie it into the international terrorism threat that doesn't exactly correlate. Boko Haram or Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, was Islamic State Western Africa Province, IS-WASP. All these groups, even Al Shabaab, maybe they'll carry out regional attacks, but they're really not international terrorist groups. And so, this is a way to say, oh my God, we need to, fund these militaries to prevent the terrorism, when really it's probably the funding of the militaries that's causing the terrorism. And again, we have from Dave DeCamp here at antiwar.com with Antony Blinken's recent 3-nation Africa trip. He went to Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal. The main statement, the main message of that trip was China bad, do business with the U.S. only.